What's going on, everybody? Sports Scuba Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Back here on a Monday, a lot to get into, or just a ton of stuff to get into. Obviously, the big one being the Steelers' defensive debacle again last night. I will certainly get into that to start the show. Also going to talk about some other NFL scores. Pitt got another victory, and some other college football takeaways as we're already over 2/3 of the way through the college football regular season, or about 2/3 of the way through. Also going to talk about the World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. Hopefully that is a great series. It looks like it already is going to be competitive. And the Pens, how about your Pittsburgh Penguins? 6-2-1 so far. Is this sustainable? I have no idea. I really don't. We're going to get into it. And also, I'm just going to talk about some NBA to start to close the show, as their regular season started last week. Some interesting storylines and some good regular season games, which we haven't been able to say in a long time. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins. I am Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. On here Monday, October 27th, Pioneer Pause tomorrow, so hopefully me and some of the shows today, I know Austin got his show, my buddy Austin at 4, hopefully we can ease you all here at WPPJ into your Pioneer Pause day tomorrow, which will be a good thing. I think a lot of us could use a bit of a pause day to relax and just hang out a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to just jump right in. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a very big game last night on Sunday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers, Packer for a decade and a half, playing as a Pittsburgh Steeler against that team. He was trying to downplay the impact and the stakes in this game, and kind of that revenge factor. But he's Aaron Rodgers. He was a little vengeful, I think, for sure in this game. And he played well enough at times for the team to win. Certainly in the first half, you were thinking 16-7 at halftime. Defense, for the most part, bending but not breaking, which is what they've been typically, and what they weren't for large portions of this season, particularly against Cincinnati on Thursday night. They were not that at all. They were broken. They broke. They didn't bend, they broke. And you're thinking, okay, this is a good performance. You get the ball to start the second half. Can't waste that possession. Got to come out with the same intensity, because the Packers are a good football team. They're no pushover. You're not going to, like what happened with the 3-and-out. You're not going to have a 3-and-out and expect the Packers to just roll over in the second half. They're going to play with a lot of intensity, especially because on the other side of this, the Packers have a lot to prove as well in this game, saying, hey, Aaron, we appreciate what you did for this franchise, but we're in a better place now, and we're gonna contend for the Super Bowl. And the Steeler defense in the first half, there were a couple drives that were problematic. Obviously, the touchdown drive was what we've seen when the Steelers have been at their worst this season defensively, giving up everything wide open. And in that final drive, I thought, the Steelers get that touchdown. Everyone's like, yes, awesome. But they did leave 32 or 34 seconds for the Packers, and you get one face mask penalty against T.J. Watt, and the Packers are already almost in field goal range. Now, fortunately, McManus was off in that first half, and he misses that field goal, so it's only 16-7. But if you're the Steelers at halftime, you got to be like, okay, we're up 16-7. Let's keep our foot on the pedal. Let's keep going, and let's try to put this game away in the third quarter by just being aggressive and making it almost impossible for this defense to blow this. And I'm not saying the offense is at fault for this game, not at all. But I think that 3 and out, and there was an offsides there. I actually missed that drive. It was so short, and I was, half times are so short in the NFL, which is good. I know you want to get back to the action quickly, but I didn't see that first drive. I came down. My brother was like, "Yeah, there's offsides. They didn't call it. It would have been third and short or whatever." And the Steelers had a 3 and out, and that's just 3 and out there when you're up 16-7 against an offense that can put up points on you, especially on this defense. It just can't happen. And we saw the Packers just slowly pick the Steelers. I think what changed the game was when it was 16-7, and Jordan Love is about to get sacked. 0 sacks in this game, I think, from the Steelers. They might have got one late, very late when it was garbage time. But 0 sacks for basically the whole game. And you're thinking they're just a touch late on some of these pressures, and Jordan Love's able to get the ball away, and Deshaun Elliott's trying to turn around. He's on Tucker Kraft, who was just tremendous in this game. The Steelers can never defend tight ends, especially really good ones, and Tucker Kraft, he was wide open. Everybody was wide open all game, honestly. Everybody was wide open, but especially Tucker Kraft and his ability to have yards after the catch as well. He's aware that Jordan Love just is throwing it up in his vicinity. Deshaun Elliott's not looking back at the ball. He's spinning around and everything. And Tucker Kraft catches it, and Deshaun Elliott's kind of riding the whole length of the field, but he's a big guy, and Deshaun Elliott's unable to tackle him. Juan Thornhill comes in, and he can't do anything. He's just grabbing and holding on for dear life. And the Steelers finally bring him down, but the Packers are in field goal range. You just feel they're going to get a touchdown. The momentum has shifted from heavily in the Steelers' side at halftime, especially with the missed field goal and the touchdown at the end of the first half. It's just from that to, okay, now the Packers' offense is going. You have the 3-and-out. Packers get the touchdown at 16-14, and the momentum's lost, and the Steelers just... in the next drive, the Steelers have a pretty good drive, but they have to settle for a field goal. And it's just, in these kind of games, with this defense, you have to be aggressive. And there were a couple 4th downs in the first half that I think Mike Tomlin should have considered going for. One of them I think he definitely should have picked one. It was 4th and 3, and it was 4th and 2, I think. Field goals aren't going to win you this game with that defense, but he's so stubborn. He thinks the defense is good, or he's just, that's my defense, I trust them, or I can't, go for this and make it look like I don't trust my defense. You shouldn't trust your defense. You should be aggressive. Mike Tomlin is by far last in the league among head coaches in going for it on 4th downs that you should go for it in. He does not go for 4th downs at all, and he's not aggressive. He always talks about not living in your fears. He's literally the coach that lives in his fears by far the most in the NFL. He's always living in his fears. He says these lines, his Tomlinisms, and he literally does the opposite. He does not live in his... He literally lives in his fears. He's like, we can't live in our fears. Kicking all these field goals in these games instead of going for it and trying to get some touchdowns. And the Packers defense was playing well for the most part last night. But don't tell me it wasn't gettable, 4th and 2. And we just have Boswell out there, and I know he's great and everything, but 7 is much bigger than 3. Imagine if there were some 7s here. Because that's how the Steelers have to look at this now. This is not a good defense. This is not a defense that's coached well at all. I don't think Terrell Austin's very good, but he's going to be a scapegoat in the end probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they fire him at some point in the coming weeks, and he'll be the scapegoat, even though we've seen this movie for over a decade plus, really. Over a decade we've seen it. And there's one common denominator, and nobody wants us to talk about it, but it is the head coach, and it's actually getting worse. It's actually worse than it's been. It's always been pretty bad when you need it, but right now it's just bad in general. It's always bad, this defense. They got a couple very fortunate stops early on against the Packers on a 3rd down. Tucker Kraft dropped a pass. That was like the only negative thing he did. for the Packers. He dropped an open pass. It went right to him. He just dropped it. And so the stops were very lucky, very fortunate stops for the Steelers defense. But the Steelers are going to have to look at this now. Arthur Smith and whoever's offense and Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron, I think, has to tell Mike Tomlin, we got to go for these fourth downs because we cannot settle for field goals anymore. We just can't. Not with this defense. We're going to have to win shootouts. It's what's going to have to happen. And it's not how the Steelers need to play to win consistently and win big, but to make the playoffs, which they love. They love making the playoffs and flaming out in the wild card round, but that's what's going to happen to actually have that happen, which is make the playoffs, just sneak in there, because it is a terrible division so far. The Ravens have handed everything to the Steelers. The Browns, this was a rebuilding year to begin with. The Bengals lost Burrow in the first half of the first game of the season. Everything's been handed to the Steelers, and they are completely fumbling the bag. And they're not a contender. You can't, unless somehow something huge changes defensively, schematically, defensively, and personnel-wise, but that's not going to happen. You're in the season. But schematically, unless something big changes, this is what we have. This is one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and it's proven it consistently this season. I mean, don't forget 32 points, and could have been more, to Justin Fields, who has looked really bad this year. And I blame that more on the Jets organizationally. They are a train wreck of an organization, and it's really disappointing, for Justin Fields and everybody involved, and Aaron Rodgers the past couple of years. But they've gotten gashed. I mean, 31 to Sam Darnold, who's a good quarterback and everything, but it was just easy stuff. They allowed Carson Wentz, who's been awful the past few weeks, to come back on them after Tomlin didn't go for him fourth down multiple times to close out the game. They punted away, and Minnesota comes back and almost wins. And obviously the last 2 weeks, it's just been a train wreck defensively. Jordan Love, I mean, probably the easiest game he's ever played in, honestly. Maybe other than that Cowboys playoff game. But everything was open. 20 or 21 straight completions. The most he had in a game in his career before this was 11. He had 20 or 21, I can't remember which. It's just everybody was open. Everybody was wide open. The defense didn't get pressure really at all. T.J. Watt, I mean, I was saying it on my podcast with my buddies, We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports Podcast. I was saying it this summer when they paid T.J. Watt. I didn't like the move because he hasn't been playing as good recently. I thought it was them giving in like they always do when it's not necessarily the right move for your team. And he's done, frankly, nothing this season. And in this game, he had one or two good plays. He had the one stop when he ran and tackled Josh Jacobs, and he got a pressure the one time. But he's been absent. This whole defensive line hasn't gotten to the quarterback. Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson are completely lost in coverage. They have no idea what's going on. Darius Slay is looking his age in this league. And Joey Porter actually made a couple plays in this game early, but for the most part was MIA when throws are going down the field. It was shocking to see. It wasn't really shocking, but it was mind-boggling because everybody was open. You don't see this in the NFL where literally everybody is open. Joe Flacco, to get it to Jamar Chase, he's open every time. And they're doubling Jamar Chase at times, and he's wide open. It was just so hard to watch. And Packer fans took over Acrisure Stadium. A lot of Steelers writers before the game complaining about how you could still see the Pitt logo on the Steeler logo at center field, instead of being worried about how this defense is going to just demolish and or just fall apart and be picked apart by Jordan Love. and then just be demolished and destroyed. It was something to witness. It was one of those games where you just have the worst feeling. How it just so quickly the lead evaporated and became a blowout. Honestly, you don't see that in the NFL very often, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's obvious there needs to be a coaching change at the top. It's been obvious for, I say 5 years since the Cleveland Browns lost at home. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You went 11-0 to start the season. That is inexcusable, completely unacceptable, and not at all to the standard of this franchise, which wins Super Bowls, wins 6 Super Bowls, doesn't lose to poverty, literally a poverty franchise. The Browns are the most poverty franchise, and you lose to them at home and get destroyed. The defense got destroyed. It's always the defense. And so, that's just what it is. That's what it is, but I don't know what else to say. They won't make a change. They've shown they won't make a change. Don't expect a change unless it's going to be Terrell Austin. He'll be the scapegoat, even though he doesn't have control over the defensive scheme. It's been the same since the head coach of the Steelers has been the head coach, and it's not worked. It's consistently not worked. And everyone else is to blame, except the one running the show with the scheme and everything. I think the players are there. This is a very talented team. It's not on Omar Khan at all. It is on the one scheming this team with this defense. It's the same old, and you see former players and current players saying, it was very easy to pick apart this defense. You just go in the middle of the field or just find an open spot. There's always an open spot somewhere, and you'll be wide open. And what's really hurt the team here now is usually a lot of times those players, receivers are open down the field. The difference has been most of the time the Steelers are the best team at getting pressure on the quarterback. This year it's been non-existent. Like I mentioned, 0 sacks, weren't very many pressures on Jordan Love, honestly. And that makes it super easy. It just makes it completely, everyone's wide open. Everyone's wide open because of that. And it's a shame, but that's what it is. And now you're 4-3. 2 weeks ago at this time, you're 4-1. You're like, okay, let's just defeat Cincinnati. We're 5-1. This division might be put away. The defense played well against Dylan Gabriel. Was all over him, pressuring, all that. 2 weeks later, they're 4-3. This season could go off a cliff. They're playing the Colts next week. They're going to put up 50 if nothing changes, which they had over a week and a half. They had a week and a half to change something. We just got gashed by Joe Flacco on Thursday Night Football. He literally just showed up to the Bengals. We just got completely cooked by Joe Flacco. We're going to make adjustments. We have to make adjustments. And we're going to make adjustments. There were no adjustments, obviously. There's never been adjustments. When has there been an adjustment to this defense? There's not. That's why players, like I mentioned, can go around saying, hey, they've been doing the same thing for a decade and a half, and we know what to do in big games and in any game to stop this defense from wreaking any havoc whatsoever. So, what else can you say? It's the same old, same old. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The results will not be different going forward. The Colts will probably score half 100 on the Steelers. The Bills, the Lions, the Ravens with Lamar. So, and the Bengals again. Joe Flacco coming back into Pittsburgh. So, it's gonna be definitely an issue. So, that's all with the Steelers. I'm going to talk about. We'll talk about them in the weeks to come, obviously, but there's really nothing else to add. They are 4-3, staring 4-4, and potentially worse right in the face in a division that was literally handed to them by every team in the division. So that's what it is. Coming up on the other side here, I'm going to give some more NFL scores around the league and talk about Pitt, actually maybe the best football team in Pittsburgh and in Western PA, Penn State, West Virginia, area and their victory over NC State and what they have upcoming and what they need to do to make this a successful season. Sports Group and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Group with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Want to go through the games, other games other than that Steeler game that happened in Week 8 of the NFL. The Chargers destroyed the Vikings. Carson Wentz was battered and bruised. He's not that good. We got to be honest, he's not very good. And he was just fighting for his life all game. Justin Herbert was as well, but the Chargers, I didn't get to watch too much of this, but the Chargers, that was a very necessary win for them here. The Jets, how about the Jets? They get their first win of the season. Justin Fields has his best game as a New York Jet, other than the Steeler game. And the Jets come back from down, 2 or 3 scores, and they end up winning the game 39-38 over Cincinnati. A very big missed opportunity potentially for Cincinnati, although with this Steelers defense, both these teams, I mean, they look like carbon copies of each other. Honestly, I mean, it's crazy. They look like carbon copies of each other. The Steelers and the Bengals without Joe Burrow look like the same team. Good for the Jets, I guess. They get their first win. Good for Aaron Glenn. The Ravens beat the Bears 30-16. The Bears defense, which has not been good this season, they've just taken the ball away more than any team in football. They didn't get takeaways in this game, and their defense got gashed by Tyler Huntley. And, I mean, Caleb Williams had some big turnovers. Some of these interceptions you're scratching your head. And the Ravens win comfortably. It's a big win for the Ravens to give them some momentum. I think Lamar Jackson's coming back on Thursday night against Miami. So the Ravens they're now favored again to win the North. I completely understand that. I understood it when they were up until a couple weeks ago, because the Steelers are clearly frauds. That's clearly what they are. They're always frauds under Mike Tomlin, but this year certainly they are with that defense. So Ravens are now 2-5. They're 2 games back now. Isn't that crazy? They're 2 games back of first place already. The Dolphins, how about the Dolphins destroying the Falcons and Kirk Cousins getting the start? Tua, his left eye was swollen before the game. 20-26, 205 and 4 touchdowns. Like I said, if Tua doesn't turn the ball over, the Dolphins can compete with some teams. It's just he's been turning it over and just hasn't looked good, and he's blaming everybody else in these press conferences. But good for Tua, good for the Dolphins there. They get a win. Kirk Cousins did not play great. 21-31 for 173. And Bijan Robinson, the Dolphins we're going to stop the run. We're going to force Kirk Cousins to beat us here. He was not able to do that, did not play well. Bills destroyed the Panthers. We saw the Bills 2 losses in a row, then they have their bye week. This was an obvious spot for the Bills. Panthers coming off, 3 straight wins, feeling good about themselves, but the Bills are a much more talented team, and particularly quarterback, even though I like Bryce Young. Andy Dalton was in the game, though, for this one anyway, so and he was not good. So Josh Allen, I mean, he didn't even do too much, but James Cook had a great game. 19 carries for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns. That'll win you some games alone, and the Bills had a very good performance there, so they win, and 3 turnovers from Carolina. Houston gets a much-needed win against the Niners, who are just really, really hampered by injuries. They win 26-15. They're not winning that division, that's clear now, but I think there's potentially some spots open wild card wise for Houston to try to take advantage of that. They're still, I mean, they're 3-4. They're not out of it. 475 yards in this game. That's crazy. 49ers got 0 sacks in the game. That is shocking to me. This Texans O-line is horrible, and they don't get any sacks. The Niners don't get any sacks on. And we see if C.J. Stroud doesn't get pressured, he's a really good quarterback. We saw in his first year. But his O-line's just been horrible. But they get a very big win here for Houston. Eagles beat the Giants. Hope Cam Scatterboo's okay. I looked like he dislocated his ankle or something. It was an uphill battle from the Giants from there. Eagles got a bounce-back win against the Giants, who should be, I mean, you can make an argument they could be 4-4 right now and in a playoff hunt, but they've just had some brutal losses. Brian Dable, I like Brian Dable, but it's like he just loses these games in the worst possible ways. You can't give up 33 points in the fourth quarter. You just can't do that. And they lose again here. But they're playing better, obviously. Patriots, after a slow start, destroyed the Browns 32-13. Drake May continues to look very good as the Patriots are first place still in the AFC East. That'll be a very interesting story coming down the wire here. And the Patriots play the Bills at home when they play. So, Patriots, they control their own destiny for the division in the AFC East. Browns are not good. What else you want to say? So, Bucks 23-3 over the Saints. Spencer Rattler wasn't great in this game. Tyler Shough came in. He wasn't very good either. Buccaneers, they're dealing with so many injuries. And it was kind of a slugfest. They were just kind of slogging through. They got outgained 275-212, the Bucks did. But they didn't turn it over as much as the Saints. So that's the difference in the game. That was a necessary win for the Bucks. Just win some of these games that you're supposed to win, even though you're hampered by injuries, and you'll be in a good spot. Colts again, 38-14 over the Titans. They're looking really good. Jonathan Taylor is playing excellent right now. Daniel Jones is playing excellent right now. 12 carries for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. 21-29 for 272 with 3 touchdowns for Daniel Jones as well. Michael Pittman 8 for 95 and a touchdown. That'll win you games. Colts honestly look like the best team in football. And they play the Steelers on Sunday afternoons. So that's incredible. Broncos destroy the Cowboys. Cowboys defense is honestly on par with the Steelers. They are in the running for the worst, along with the Titans here. Bo Nix looked pretty good in this game. Dak Prescott had a couple bad interceptions. And for Dallas in these games, they got to keep pace. They got to get touchdowns on every drive, basically. And, it's just a really tough way to win games. So, Broncos win by 20. And the game tonight, Monday Night Football, Chiefs against the Commanders with no Jaden Daniels playing. Chiefs should win that game for sure. And they would be 5-3 and right in the thick of it in the AFC. So I want to pivot now from these NFL games to the college game a little bit. Pitt played on Saturday at Acrisure Stadium. They defeated NC State 53-34 in a game that was an interesting game. They were able to score a lot. The Pitt scored a lot in this game. I mean, I was worried after that Syracuse performance. They scored 30 points, but there was a lot of short fields, and they settled for a lot of field goals in that game. Their offense did not play well at all against Syracuse, and they were so hampered. They're so hampered, especially defensively, injury-wise. I was worried about them defensively this game. They did give up a bunch of yards in this game, but it was just crazy. Just the back and forth. I was really worried because Pitt gets a touchdown and a field goal. They're up 10-0. NC State gets a touchdown, 10-7, 17-7, 17-14, 24-14, 24-21 off of the trick play to the tight end who was limping, doing the Greg Jennings limping into the end zone, just barely made it. But Pitt gets a score to end the half, 31-21. They get the ball to start the second half, and unlike the Steelers, Pitt took full advantage. I think they got a field goal, but then they got a touchdown after that, and that kind of put NC State away. And NC State scored 34, but they got 2 scores late. It was 21 for the longest time. It was 41-21 at one point. It was Pitt. The margin of 19 didn't even tell the whole story there. Pitt played really well offensively in this game. There were some issues I had at times with the play calling. I thought they passed it way too much. I wouldn't have ran it with Des Reed, but put Joel Goff in the game and hand it off to him. Keep handing it off to Ja'Carrion Turner. Instead, they passed 48 times in this game. Now, they had a lot of plays. They ran a lot of plays, but it was just a lot of passing. And you get a 10-point lead, and you throw it 3 times incomplete, and you got to punt it. And that could have been a disaster for Pitt. But fortunately, it wasn't. This was a very big win. The players were up for this game, which was great to see. They were up for Syracuse, kind of. They were able to get out of there with a win. They were up for NC State. They get the win. Cam Lindsey, there were a couple plays on that big run they gave up to the NC State running back, who I'm forgetting his name, but he's really good. He's really good. It was just a bad angle by some of those linebackers in there. Again, it's a great experience when you're winning and you got third string freshmen, unproven guys, giving them an opportunity. It's going to be better for them in the long run. And you're winning ball games. So that's like the best case scenario for Narduzzi and the staff and this team. And there were some things to get better. I'm worried about the safeties. I'm worried about McIntyre in coverage, especially against like a Notre Dame or a Miami. I'm worried about Tamon Lynham. I think he had a good game here on Saturday, but he hasn't impressed me. But really, I think the secondary played fairly well for the most part. There were some crazy plays that happened that went down. McIntyre slips on the one touchdown, and he was in fairly good position. So there was just a little bit of flukiness that went on in this game defensively. And offensively for NC State. And again, NC State got the 2 scores late to make it 53-34. And Pitt honestly could have scored more. It was kind of ironic. Eli Holstein comes in, he throws one pass, and it's an interception. Now, it was a tip ball, but it was not a ball you should have thrown. He was trying to make an impact there a little or whatever, and it just wasn't going to happen. And so, an ill-advised play there. But nonetheless, Pitt gets the win. And this is the trifecta, the third game on the slate here with Stanford upcoming, of these teams that Pitt is better than and they need to defeat before the 3-game gauntlet at the end of the season. If you take care of business against Stanford, you'll be 7-2, 5-1 in the ACC, and everything's in front of you. You play Georgia Tech, right? You got your one conference loss, but you play at Georgia Tech, and I don't think Georgia Tech is a world beater. I don't think they're Ohio State by any means, or even some of the top 10 teams we've seen. I just think they're very gettable, and they play a style that Pitt is modeled defensively to stop. I just hope when the Notre Dame game, Georgia Tech, and Miami games come around, Pitt is healthy enough, and they get these linebackers back, because you need Kyle Lewis, you need Rasheem Biles. These are difference makers. And you'd like to have Jaden Moore back at some point. He hasn't played at all this season. You'd love for him to come back not even come back, just get to this team, be healthy. You like Jaden Moore, Blaine Spires is just coming back. Get some of these edge rushers back, get some of the D linemen back. And see if, at full strength, I think this team can certainly compete with Notre Dame, can compete and beat Georgia Tech, and can beat Miami at home. We've seen Miami be a little sluggish here in the second half of this season. Stanford was up 7-0 for almost the entire first half against Miami before they put them away. And Stanford's not a good team, which is why Pitt has to win that game. They have to win this game on Saturday. They can't let their have an emotional letdown here. They haven't done anything yet. They haven't proven anything. You got to win these games to be in these, to make the big games matter. So that's what I'm looking for here going forward for Pitt. And it'll be interesting. Pitt's honestly playing with house money right now. This is a big year still for Pitt, but they're already 6-2. You know, if you go 2-1, if you win against Georgia Tech and Miami and lose to Notre Dame, you're in the ACC championship. I think there's no doubt, because if you beat Miami, they got 2 conference losses already. You beat Georgia Tech, they have 1, and you have the tiebreaker. So I think for sure they would be in, and Virginia's going to lose somewhere probably. So everything's in front of Pitt, honestly. They don't necessarily control their own destiny, but there are teams in front of them that are not the strongest. I think Pitt has an argument for one of the top teams in the ACC for sure. I think they're better than Virginia. I think at full strength they're better than Georgia Tech. I think when Pitt plays Georgia Tech, I don't think Georgia Tech's defense is tremendous. I think Pitt could really carve them up. I think that could be a similar game to the Florida State game on the road for Pitt, honestly. And that would be huge. And in Miami, I think Pitt can keep pace a little bit. It's just can that O-line protect against that defensive line of Miami. So that'll be the thing going forward. But Pitt, 2 out of 3 here, taking care of business against Syracuse and NC State. They've won 4 in a row, playing well. And people are like, oh, they should be ranked. I honestly don't think they should be ranked right now. They received 1 vote. I think that's about fair. You can't lose to West Virginia and Louisville and not have any really marquee wins and be put over any of these teams, USC or any of these kind of teams, Washington, who wasn't ranked, Iowa, who wasn't ranked, who have better arguments to be there than Pitt. So I think Pitt's in a good spot. If you just keep winning, you'll be ranked. You'll be in a good spot. And you win the ACC, you're in no matter what. So just that should be the focus of this team, for sure. So that is where we are with Pitt. Pitt is 6-2. Penn State had a bye week. They play at Ohio State this Saturday, which was the game for Penn State that had as much anticipation going into the season as you could imagine. Because a lot of people thought this would be the year for Penn State, that they could maybe dethrone Ohio State and win a national championship. That game has so much less meaning, and Penn State fans will be the first to admit that, because this has been a disastrous season. West Virginia lost. They played TCU very close. They could have won that game. Tough loss there for West Virginia. And you're looking, they might have one game potentially against Colorado at home that you're thinking they have a good chance to win. Yeah, it's tough. It's a rebuild. It's year 1 with Rich Rod, so you get what you get. But hey, you beat Pitt, and they certainly have celebrated that, and as they should. That is a huge win for West Virginia, not only in the rivalry, but to say if Pitt does anything this year, we beat one of the better teams in college football. So although Pitt was not a good team at all during that first 4-game stretch, undoubtedly. So going to take a break here, final break of the show. Coming up on the other side, I'm going to discuss Brian Kelly getting fired, all these coaches getting fired in college football, and some other college football scores, as well as the Pens playing pretty well, and the World Series, Game 3 tonight. Sports Scoop and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ, 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Scoop and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Want to get to some of these top 25 games. I'm going to talk about Brian Kelly getting fired. Actually, when I talk about Texas A&M LSU, I'll just talk about it. Indiana destroyed UCLA. I was on the wrong side of this game. I thought UCLA could cover in this game. They did not. They were just awful. In Indiana, Curt Cignetti is just not happy. He's not ever happy with his team or with college football. He expects perfection, and that's why he's such a good coach. But Indiana, 56-6, and he's over there. He's all negative on the sidelines. Indiana's a force this year. They're different. This is a different Indiana team, I think. From last year, they were good, but they were certainly a step or two behind the premier teams in college football. This year, I mean, they're destroying everybody except Iowa, ironically. And They look like they're on a collision course for the Big Ten championship and 12-0 regular season, and so does Ohio State. So that's what we're saying. For weeks, it's looked like the Big Ten is kind of wrapped up here in terms of who's going to be making the Big Ten championship. Alabama defeated South Carolina. Woo, boy, that was tough there for Alabama. It was not looking good for a while, but they made the plays in the end. South Carolina did not make the plays in the end, and Alabama gets the win. South Carolina, just outside of quarterback, they're just bereft of talent, of enough talent that you'd think they would be, and they've had good recruiting classes, but they're just not as talented as some of these teams, and it's really hurting Lenore Sellers. It really is, and people are saying their wide receivers are going to take a big step up this season. It hasn't happened. Lenore Sellers is trying to do some hero ball, and it's just really hard. And South Carolina's 3-5 now, and they're looking at a 5-7 record here. They got 2 more road games against like Missouri and A&M or something that they're going to lose in all likelihood. So it's going to be a tough season. I don't think that Shane Beamer is going to be on the hot seat necessarily, but we've seen coaches whose teams have played better than Shane Beamer's team get fired. So anything's on the table, I think. Oregon, it was a rainy, kind of weird game, and they hold on against Wisconsin. Good for Wisconsin, I guess, staying in it. Wisconsin, they hang the banner this year. They covered the spread against Oregon. That's their hang the banner this season. Been a rough season. We'll see if whatever happens with Luke Fickell, if anything happens. Georgia Tech, slow start, but they win by 25 against Syracuse. Haynes King threw the ball well in this game, which is good to see for him and for Georgia Tech. I still think if you're Pitt, they're a beatable team. I do. So that'll be something. Syracuse, Pitt just played them, and Pitt would play terribly and won comfortably. So that's not crazy impressive, if I'm Georgia Tech, although it's a necessary win. Ole Miss goes to Norman and beats Oklahoma 34-26. They look like the better team. John Mateer, since he got this hand surgery, hasn't looked nearly as good as he was pre, which is understandable. He had a very quick surgery. It felt like it was very rushed, and he comes back in the Texas game, and it's all weird. It kind of is what it is. And Oklahoma, which early on looked like a bona fide playoff team, has their 2 losses, can't afford to lose another one, but it looks like they're going to lose at least a couple more with this schedule. So if you're Ole Miss too, good for Ole Miss, because this almost guaranteed that they're going to be in. They have an easier schedule. The toughest games like at Mississippi State, which is their rivalry game. But even if you lose that game, you're 10-2, and you're going to be in the playoffs as an SEC team. And they're deserving. They should be. So good for Ole Miss. Good for Lane Kiffin, who's cooking right now. Miami, after a slow start, end up beating Stanford by 35. In their camo uniforms, kind of weird uniform combination there, but they get it done. Pitt plays Stanford next week. Pitt better have a similar game against Stanford. Just win. Please just win, honestly. Vanderbilt, 17, Missouri 10. Wasn't the prettiest game, but Vanderbilt gets it done again, and they have 1 loss, and they could very easily make the playoffs if they win 1 of 2 games. If they win at Texas or at Tennessee, if they win one of those games, I think they're in. They have the resume. They have some good wins. This Missouri win's a good win. LSU was a good win, but that one might start looking worse and worse. But they play at Texas this weekend, and I'm not sure if the right team is favored in that game. So we'll see. For Missouri, they got 2 losses, and it's kind of similar to what I was saying about Oklahoma. They play some tough teams. They play Texas A&M coming up. It looks like they're going to lose a couple more games. BYU, congratulations. They get the win over Iowa State. That's a really good win. Iowa State turned it over 4 times. BYU capitalized. Very nice win for BYU. A lot of people, including myself, have kind of doubted them a little bit. I think they're a good team. I just don't know if they're deserving of this undefeated. They have some tough games coming up. We'll see if they can keep winning, but they've shown no indication of losing. Texas Tech, who they play next, I think, after a bye, they beat Oklahoma State 42-0. Virginia held on against UNC. I just don't think Virginia's very good. They, in some of the Florida State win looks a lot, kind of lost its luster a little bit. The Louisville one, they got a couple defensive scores, which really helped them. They hung on against Washington State. They hung on here against UNC. I don't know. I just don't really see it. They lost to NC State, who's not good. So, but hey, I mean, they're 7-1, and nobody thought they would be. So, congrats to Virginia. Tennessee beat Kentucky 56-34. South Florida was in control against Memphis, and they lose 34-31. And the American and the Group of 5 race for the playoffs got so much more interesting here. Louisville kind of was sluggish, but ends up beating Boston College by 2 touchdowns. Cincinnati beats Baylor. Texas down 37-20 or 38-20. 38-21, I think it was. Comes back, gets a kick return or punt return for a touchdown. Got a couple scores. They tie the game against Mississippi State and they win in overtime. Washington beats Illinois. Houston beats Arizona State. Houston's now ranked, and Michigan took care of Michigan State in that rivalry. But the game I want to focus on here, A&M LSU. A&M, after Marcel Reed throws a pick in the end zone, and LSU takes advantage, and that they're winning at halftime. I mean, in the second half, it was all Texas A&M. They did whatever they wanted offensively, and they were, I think it's like 7 sacks on Garrett Nussmeier or something. They were all over pressuring Nussmeier. And the bigger story here is Brian Kelly getting fired, obviously, because I thought Texas A&M would win and cover here. They emphatically did. But Brian Kelly, he gets fired, and I don't really feel pity for him. I mean, things are coming out now about how he treated staffers, how he treated other people, how he treated the job at LSU, which is one of the best jobs in the country. You could see him during the game. The camera was on him like the whole game. ESPN knew what they were doing. And he's yelling at people. He's berating people. Like, dude, you're the head coach. The ultimate responsibility falls on you, and you're yelling at everybody else but yourself. And it's been like that for a while, and things are coming out that he's not the greatest person, how he treats his staff. Obviously, seeing what he's been doing this season publicly, just verbally to his staff, you can tell that might make sense. It just never worked out. I think it seemed like he was just in it for the money, and he's going to get a good job somewhere else probably. But LSU whiffed on this one, and they can't whiff again, certainly, because this is a premier program. This is a program that expects to be in the playoff every year now at 12 teams. They should be. And with the talent they had, just underperformed under Brian Kelly. And so now we'll see a lot of big names will be mentioned. I saw people saying, you got to at least give Marcus Freeman a call. I mean, Brian Kelly went from Notre Dame to LSU. Marcus Freeman, who seems to be having a great time at Notre Dame and everything, but if they lose a game here, maybe they lose to Pitt, and they miss the playoff, could he be kind of enticed to go to LSU, which is, I think, a better job with less academic restraints, even though Notre Dame's a great job, obviously. It'll be very interesting to see. So a lot of big SEC and Big Ten with Penn State, a lot of big schools with the need for a new coach, and there might get one in Auburn. Who knows at South Carolina? Who knows at Kentucky? They did pay Mark Stoops a lot, but they've been bad this season. There's some. Who knows at Florida State? Right? I mean, it seems like Mike Norvell could be fired as well. So that's what happened in the top 25 here this week. And yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit, just briefly, about the Pens, because they are playing well. I didn't get to watch their game against the Blue Jackets. I saw they were winning, and then I saw they lost in a shootout, but they get a point out of it. But 6-2-1, they're scoring a lot of goals, and Tristan Jarry in that Florida game was incredible. I watched a lot of that game. He made some huge saves. Brad Marchand was all over the place, and he scored a couple times, but Jarry he stopped him from having 3 or 4 goals. And so credit to Jarry. I think it was probably Seelov's in that against Columbus, so who knows there. I haven't paid too much attention to the Penguins so far, but it's good to see. It's their best start since 2019, which is crazy. And now there's bad news that Rickard Rakell's going to be out like 6 to 8 weeks. That's no good. That's not good news. He's been very good for several years now for the Pens. But they're playing well. We'll see how sustainable it is. I have no idea how sustainable it is, but it is crazy. People are saying they'd be one of the worst teams in hockey. And they still might. Who knows? Maybe this is just a flash in the pan if you had a 10-game stretch or whatever. But this is very encouraging for the Penguins. And Dan Muse, it looks like he's injected some energy into the team. Some of these young guys are playing well. It's good to see there's a lot more speed with this team and energy. And I think that's really helped this team. So good for the Pens. The World Series, how about that? The Blue Jays destroy the Dodgers in Game 1. The Dodgers get back in Game 2. Game 3 in LA tonight. And I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be intrigued to see how this unfolds here. People are saying, the Blue Jays, it's David versus Goliath. And, like the Blue Jays are a big market team, and they spent a lot of money as well. But anybody to the Dodgers is David almost, it feels like, because they are just so talented. They invest so much money. Stars galore. Their injured list this season was an all-star team at one point, really. And it's just going to be tough for anybody to overcome that. But, the Blue Jays play well in that first game. They get stymied, kind of like what the Brewers did against the Dodgers and the Phillies. Just not able to score against, Yamamoto, who's been excellent. Really has. They have really good starting pitching. And the Blue Jays, they can match up offensively right now. They have a lot of momentum. They have good players. Right, Dalton Varsho's been excellent. Vladdy, George Springer, is going to perform. Ernie Clement's been great. Barger with the big grand slam. They just have a lot of really good hitters, kind of like the Brewers. But these guys are performing right now. The Brewers, Sal Frelick's, Caleb Durbin's, they're really pesky, solid players, weren't performing like we see Barger and Clement and these guys. That's been a difference for the Blue Jays, getting up and down the lineup contributions. And so we'll see how this keeps going. I still think the Dodgers are going to win this series. I think almost everybody does. I'm caught between a rock and a hard place here because I'm not a Dodgers fan. And I like the Blue Jays. I like how they built their team. I think it's positive momentum this season after signing Vlad to the extension. But they're Canada's team, and I don't know. I am rooting for the Blue Jays though, and I like dynasties with the Dodgers. But the Dodgers, I don't know. It's just when the Pirates are just so bad and can't do anything right. It's just you're kind of really envious of what the Dodgers can do. So we'll see. I hope it continues to be a good series. It's funny how they cover every MLB. They went from one of the worst in marketing to now over marketing, especially with Shohei Ohtani here. It's just like I saw Fox MLB or it was the MLB site. They posted Shohei was swinging for the fences here. He swung and missed, and they posted it. It was like swinging for the fences, like crazy. The coverage of Shohei Ohtani, but he's such a good player. But it's just a funny keynote there about that. But yeah, that'll be tonight. We'll see if the Blue Jays on the road now have it in them. I want to talk about the NBA as we close out just a little bit. NBC's knocked it out of the park with their coverage. ESPN, I'm a Pacers fan. I like the Nuggets as well. And those two games, Thunder-Pacers last Wednesday, and then Nuggets-Warriors were really good games. The Nuggets should have put the Warriors away. They were winning the whole game, except for the start of the first quarter. And they kind of took their foot off the gas. Aaron Gordon was incredible. I love Aaron Gordon. Hitting every shot, just making every shot was crazy. He's improved so much as a three-point shooter, which I think is going to really help the Nuggets in the playoffs. It did last season. It's going to this season as well. The Pacers, they are 0-3. Which is sad to me. It really is. They were so close to getting that win. I think they're a playoff team still. I really do. They're 0-3, but they took the Thunder to, double overtime and had the opportunities to win without Tyrese Halliburton, without TJ McConnell. Andrew Nembhard got hurt in the game. They were missing somebody else too. And now, to be fair, the Thunder were missing Caruso and Jalen Williams as well. But, I mean, the Thunder are the best team in basketball, and they're probably going to be in the regular season as well. So they lose tight to the T-Wolves last night. They got kind of blown out, as expected, against the Grizzlies. They were just gassed from that game. So I still think the Pacers are a playoff team, honestly. I think, I'm looking right now, I think the Cavs are, the Knicks are, Milwaukee's going to be, Detroit's going to be, Orlando's going to be. I think the Pacers are at 6. I think the Sixers are at 7, and then I guess Atlanta. I don't know. I really don't know. Boston maybe. I think Boston's a playoff team. I think so too. People say in the Eastern Conference, people are like, "Oh, the Pacers are done. Tyrese Halliburton's out for the year." The Pacers in 23-24 made it to the conference finals and were pushing the Celtics a little bit without Tyrese Halliburton. Like, people forget about that. And in the game against the Thunder in Game 7, they held their own without Tyrese Halliburton. So it's not like the Pacers are complete scrubs without him. So that'll be something to look forward to. But that'll do it for the show. Thank you for watching. Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And have a great day here on the Monday. And have a great Pioneer Pause tomorrow, for sure. Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM.